Everyone, welcome to this week, 60 minutes of analytical review of the big stories, topical issues, and all the controversies around the world. I'm Somna Sambo. In the headlines, with barely a month to constitutional deadline, expectations rise over President Tinubu's ministerial list. And a month after the removal of fuel subsidy, how much has Nigeria saved amid calls for President Bola Tinubu to investigate how the country lost 59.3 trillion naira in 7 years? Stay with us as we bring you all these details. We begin with the much anticipated ministerial list of President Bola Tinubu. By virtue of a new constitutional provision, the president is mandated to have within 60 days in office his cabinet formed. This includes sending the names of his ministerial nominees to the Senate for proper vetting and confirmation. Tinubu, who assumed office on May 29, now has barely a month to comply with the provisions of the law passed in the twilight of the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. Buhari had himself taken 6 months to form his cabinet in 2015, something that many political watchers believe affected the smooth takeoff of his government. Now, in taking a peep into Tinubu's cabinet, what caliber of persons should the president hire to help him deliver on his election promises to the people of Nigeria, despite the challenges in court? What should be the pedigree, and what kind of criteria, apart from the constitutional provision that makes it compulsory for him to nominate at least one minister from each state of the federation? All right, to help us take a look at this, we have joining us in the studio stalwart of the Government All Progressives Congress, Kabir Faskari, who is also the president of the All Farmers Association of Nigeria. Thank you so much, Alhaji Faskari, for joining us.
Thank you, you're welcome.
Yeah, so talk to us about the humongous promises that President Tinubu made before the elections, and then what Nigerians expect him to do in terms of the competent people that can help drive the promises he made.
Thank you very much for putting this question to me. I followed all the activities of the presidential candidate as a member of the APC and also as a farmer. I looked at closely what he promised to do in terms of his commitment to agriculture. And I was quick to add that if what I saw in the manifesto was implemented in agriculture, for instance, Nigeria would have food security. And the food security is the sine qua non for development. And as far as we are concerned, if that is met, half the problems have been met. And to be able to do that, we have to look at insecurity, which had been bedeviling the nation for a very long time. And the economics of scale also have to be looked at because the purchasing power of the people also will help the farmers to go back to the land the following year and all that. So for me, I have seen and I have a lot of hope that the administration will walk its talk. From the about a dozen people that he made special advisors, I'm privileged to know quite a number of them, and I have an idea of their pedigree. If you take the current NSA, I knew him back when he was I think a first-year student in law in Zaria.
Oh, interesting.
And I have also looked at him as the main man in EFCC. And I'm yet to hear anybody accuse him of using that office to enrich himself. He was probably a bit overzealous in even doing the job. He lost the job because he stood for what was correct. And I believe as NSA, he would do the same. And there is another very quiet individual that he appointed as the special advisor political. Now, I know this man's pedigree around Buhari.
Darazo.
He was a very quiet person. Nobody I mean, most people think that he cannot do anything in the political arena, but I know that he can do a lot because he's someone who followed up all the attempts of the Buhari himself to get to the office of the president of Nigeria, and he was there all along the presidency. And I'm sure he saw what happened, and he got close to Tinubu for the reason that he is very pragmatic. And I know that he would bring some common sense into politics and even the appointments in political office. And so many others.
Because he will be very instrumental in guiding the president to choose his ministers.
That's correct.
Because he has to settle some of the chieftains in the APC, I mean, before bringing in technocrats and all of that. So that delicate balancing is very important.
Very important,
and
yes.
Eldarazo will play a very key important role. Now, talking about all these appointments that have already been made, it already signals this kind of person that President Tinubu is. What sort of Minister of Agriculture are you expecting to be nominated?
Well, you see, as president of all Farmers Association, I advised the president, I think it's in the social media, it's everywhere, but I wrote a specific presentation to some newspaper people that, you know, we made some mistakes in APC in appointing some people to run the affairs of the Ministry of Agriculture.
And what sort of mistake is that? Sorry, before you go in.
The farmer, the first minister, Audu Ogbe, was a poultry. You know, I used to be the president of Poultry Association of Nigeria. He talked with us. In fact, the APP that came about, the policy APP was midwifed by us, because when Buhari was doing his electioneering campaign and all that, he emphasized what he would do in agriculture. So we went to Nerils in Zaria and converged all the members, all the executives of AFAN in all the 36 states plus FCT were there. We were there with some professors and researchers, and we thought, look, what is the way forward? What is the best thing that they would do in agriculture to really make it on the front burner of our economy? Because, you know, people like me went to school really on agriculture. But when we started schooling, there was no oil. We were on scholarship, yes.
Until the nation's attention got diverted.
So we wanted to restore the dignity of agriculture. So we came up with an idea, and we joined hands with I don't know whether you know the Agricultural Foundation of Nigeria. I'm a board of trustee member there. We came there, we interacted with them, and we now convened a conference in the Eradua Center. We called Audu Ogbe used to be my member as a poultry farmer, and even Obasanjo was my member. He was also invited, but he couldn't come. He sent his long-term Minister of Agriculture, Adamu Bello, to represent him. We had a very good meeting. We brought out all the conclusions that we had there, and Audu Ogbe graciously took it to the ministry, and they beefed it up, and then APP was born, Agriculture Promotion Policy. This was launched in Sheraton Hotel. The vice president represented the president, and I gave a goodwill message. The vice president came down from the podium to shake my hands for that, and that's what really gave impetus to even the Anko Boroa program that the CBN has done. And nobody will tell you that Anko Boroa did not play a very important role, but it has not been institutionalized in the Ministry of Agriculture. So you need a minister who would create the right kind of synergy to make sure that whether he is the person who started something or other people started it, he would synergize to make Nigeria great for that. Now, Audu Ogbe did his best, but I believe his people around him couldn't see why he should work with the Anko Boroa program effectively. He lost his job after a while, but the person who came after him even was worse. He was sacked. Then the last person who came did not even understand what was happening in agriculture.
Yeah, because it was too short.
Well, maybe it was too short, but he was not willing to learn. I trained as an architect. I believe I know something about agriculture. You can easily know anything about agriculture because I started farming or escorting my father to the farm from the age of 6. Every northern Nigerian knows about agriculture, for
Yeah, I
instance.
mean, very interesting,
So-
because I have a farm myself.
So
And
that
it's
you
very
can see,
important.
you can see.
Despite the fact that we do this
so
job.
in a nutshell, the kind of person that should be hired or employed or appointed as Minister of Agriculture should be somebody with competence, who works very hard, has integrity, and knows what to do in agriculture. The person does not have to be an agriculturist, because the president is not everything. I believe he's an accountant,
Yeah.
but he is the president of Nigeria. He looks after the petroleum
Okay,
and
now so let's
investment.
talk about the politics of cabinet formation. There are some key positions that the North always wants reserved for it. Talk about Ministry of Water Resources, talk about agriculture, talk about finance, and some other ones. And this has become controversial over time, including the Minister of FCT. How can President Tinubu, who comes from the South, juggle through all of those things? Because some of the emirs we learned also make those categorical demands.
I'm not sure you are talking from a very scientific point of view.
But maybe a political point of view.
But every appointment in the political arena is political. Even permanent secretaries are political appointees. Now, even the soldiers, from colonel, you are a political person. You are appointed politically to a position. Now, coming back to what you think is the basic preserve of northern Nigeria, I beg to disagree with you. You know, there was one Minister of Agriculture. He is now the president of the Africa Development Bank.
Yeah, additional.
He is not from the northern Nigerian context you are talking about.
Yeah,
he
but
was a very
former
good
President Goodluck Jonathan struggled to actually give him that position.
He didn't struggle. He didn't struggle. With whom did he struggle? I was president of Poultry Association when Adeshina was Minister of Agriculture. He was my friend there. We liked what he was doing. He was very pragmatic. He listened to us, and he listened to many people. You know, he's most of the people we interacted with said he was not quite in agriculture because he did agricultural economics. And I wondered why they would say that. Do you need to have a minister of agriculture because he read agronomy or what? Is it only agronomy we do? So to come to answer your question, I think the political dispensation or the coloration that anybody is putting, that water resources, FCT, finance, and agriculture should be manned by people from northern extraction, I think is a fallacy. Look, if you are looking for competence, if you are looking for hard work, for integrity, appoint a Nigerian.
So President Tinubu can upset the apple cart.
He will definitely, he will even
and it
do
won't
it.
affect him politically.
He will even do it.
Okay.
He will do it. I mean, this is a guy who was told that a Muslim ticket will not fly. We have a Muslim president, Muslim vice president, but the SGF is a Christian, and so many other. There is a very, very strong balance, and nobody is really complaining,
including the president of the Senate.
So,
all right, now let's look at the expectations of Nigerians. You and I know how we are facing a lot of economic challenges now. There's economic strangulation, and people are saying that what sort of dividends we are getting from the removal of fuel subsidy has to be seen practically being implemented. Some of the ministers come and they just fall asleep in the cabinet. How many ministers can you name that were in Buhari's cabinet? I mean, many of them, it looked like maybe someone was just busy controlling the ministries from the presidency and they were not so active. How can President Tinubu prevent such a scenario?
Well, you see, I'm a businessman, and I tend to look at anybody's performance based on a broad level. I am not given to saying that this man is doing somebody else's bidding. At the end of it all, your failure is your failure. Now, if the president appointed you to be the Minister of Agriculture, you cannot come and say that, you know, you are being teleguided by anybody in the villa, for instance, not the president. If you agree to be teleguided there, then it's a failure. You are showing that you are not competent. You should not be appointed. To cut this story short, if appointments are done on merit, the people who are appointed on merit will resist being pushed around or being told what to do. They would opt for losing the job rather than doing the wrong thing. This is why we emphasize that the president should employ or should appoint people on merit. No more, no less. The politics has its place. There are political compensations that you give people, all right, but the person does not have to be a minister. After all,
you think so? Even when the APC is already compiling lists of ministers from states, because people worked for it as a party, they have to be compensated.
No, what you don't understand is that whatever lists you bring, still the prerogative of appointing a minister is the president's. Certainly, yes, you can make your input, you can make your advice, but he's got a very large basket. Even people like you advise him. People like me advise him. His wife will advise him. Everybody will advise him. At the end of it all, he will look at the sum total of all these things and look at the pedigree of the individuals and make the appointment. He could make mistakes. When he realizes that he has put the wrong person in some other place, he should quickly change that person. But that is the best way. And if you appoint anybody and you find that that person is doing the wrong thing, change him. If you punish people for doing wrong, other people will be deterred.
Now, was that the major problem that then President Buhari had? Yeah, because he couldn't hire and fire?
I think I would tell you one thing. Before the Minister of Agriculture of that time was removed, he did so many things that if I was the president, I would have removed him over 1 year before that time. Because there were many instances when I even attended meetings in the villa when he claimed to be doing certain things that I, as the president of all farmers, was not even aware. For instance, he came to a meeting with us, convened by the chief of staff then, that he had been collating data, farmers' data, and that at that date or time he had the data of about 2.3 million farmers. And I was not aware. And you know, I'm from an agrarian place. Even if nobody likes me in Nigeria, some of my relations in Faskari, where I come from, if they were enumerated or if they were registered, they would at least tell me that we have made it to the list of the people who are counted. Nobody told me. And I'm sure that I can remember that the then Minister of Finance even told him in Hausa that President of Farmers.
Yeah, I mean, that's where, let's be very factual here. We're talking about Mohamed Nanonu, who had claimed controversially that with 13 era, many Nigerians can feed
now I don't want to talk about that.
And a lot of people hit back, especially in the north.
Well, I don't want to talk about that because probably where he comes from, that amount could do it, but I think he retracted that. So and of course it was against reality.
Yeah,
even in Faskari you couldn't eat with.
Yeah, I mean, I went to do a special report in Faskari myself, and I saw how the insurgency affected lots of people. Lots of farmers had to run into Katsina town and all of that. Now let's talk about the role of the National Assembly, the Senate specifically, in screening the ministers when President Bola Tinubu eventually nominates them. There's these controversial issues of bow and go. If the president sends his list on Tuesday that we're expecting the Senate to reconvene, how should the Senate handle this controversial issue of bow and go so that they don't clear people that are not so fit enough? Even if the president made a mistake, can the Senate help him to correct the mistake?
Well, you see, every institution has a culture. If you have been a senator in the Federal Republic and you are nominated to be a minister, your antecedents are well known by everybody. And he is a minister in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. If because of the privilege of having been a senator, grants him the bow and go syndrome you are talking about, it does not stop us from saying that he is not fit. And they're making it very loud. I will not want to say that the Senate will be doing any wrong by telling one of its own to bow and go. it should happen. That kind of thing should happen. We should recognize that.
The controversy there is that sometimes it's not even one of their own. Sometimes, I mean, just some party stalwarts, or maybe, for example, if Tinubu nominates the APC national chairman,
but he was a senator.
Yeah. Assuming he wasn't a senator, for example, I'm just saying, you will hear them saying that, I mean, just bow and go.
Well, if they do that, that is his privilege, you know, and it's up to you and me to say that this man is not capable. Why are you saying he should go? I mean, he should bow and go. I mean, you know, bow and go. We can always make our opinions known. Whether they are taken or not is immaterial, but let us be objective. And I believe Tinubu will not make the mistake of just appointing a person because of lobby or because of anything, because he has a date with history. You know, so many challenges, so many people have been coming out to denigrate him. For me, so far so good. The things that he has done, as far as I'm concerned, he has made my day as an APC man. I believe that in appointing ministers, he's also going to do the same. He's not going to necessarily please me or you.
You think so? Did you see the number of people who trooped into Bodilon to see Tinubu? Tinubu had to live there to go to a guest house.
Let me tell you,
because of the pressure from especially the southern
elites. I believe Buhari left the Rana now because of the people going to see him.
Yeah, because he could actually help them to influence an appointment in Tinubu's cabinet. Maybe that's why Buhari ran to London.
I know a gentleman. I know a gentleman who is very, very close to Tinubu. He listens to people, but he tells them the truth. The president has got his own mind, a mind of his own. I will give you this simple example. There are two young ladies from the same local government that he has made special advisors.
Yeah, I mean,
now listen to me. He has worked closely with these people, and I witnessed some of the occasions where they worked with him. Even I would appoint them. So as far as I'm concerned, if anybody criticizes that appointment, I would say that, well, you know, most people will criticize appointment because they are not the ones appointed. You know, when people tell me that even some people complain that Ribadu will not make, should not be an NSA because the military top brass will not go to him, I was just asking myself, look, those people, do they understand governance? Do they understand responsibility or power?
I'm very sure you're talking about power,
especially in Nigeria. As far as I'm concerned, the people are free to say what they like. But when there are facts and figures to examine, to look at the veracity or otherwise of a decision, use those parameters to judge. Okay. Do not be subjective. Okay, because I don't like your face. Yeah, it doesn't mean that I will not give you this interview.
Let me ask you the flip side of the other question. A lot of people from the South will be saying that, look, Tinubu, this is our turn, Emiloko, our local, and all of that. We should be having some juicy ministerial positions, and they will be putting lots of pressure on the president. If you were the president or you were close to him to advise him enough, how can he handle that balance so that it doesn't look like he's trying to hit back at the North in trying to form a cabinet that looks more of like some of the juicy ministries went more to the South?
You see, as far as I'm concerned, nobody would appoint his enemy to anything. This is reality. And do you think, I speak Hausa, I'm very comfortable speaking Hausa with my people in the house, and I'm the president, I'm in the villa. My domestic staff, the people who work with me every day, should I get people who don't even speak Hausa at all?
Well, maybe if you're a nationalist, you may try to do that.
So what? I mean, you're a nationalist, but you want things to go on. If your mother comes to live with you, and she doesn't speak a word of English, and you have somebody to do something for her, and that person doesn't speak her language, would it be working? So, I mean, we must excuse certain things, but certainly, if you go overboard with them, when it is obvious that there is some nepotism, people will talk about it. But as far as I'm concerned, let us cross the bridge when we reach it. It's not fair for us now to accuse the president or his vice for appointing people from certain extractions. You remember the vice president had to even come out You know, people are not very fair to him. All he wanted to say was the balance for the reality of our situation. The Senate President should be a Southern Christian. Now, the fact that some people said he denigrated his religion and all that, I think is only mischievous. Everybody understood what he wanted to say. Because just suppose it was a Muslim northerner that was made the Senate President. What would people be saying now? You just told me that the North is talking about necessarily having the ministerial positions of finance, agriculture, FCT and all that.
Yeah, and let me just ask you that question. Why haven't we had any Southern FCT minister since 1999?
So maybe we should have one now. Maybe if you think it's a jinx,
Well,
if you think it's a jinx, let's have one now. Because as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter who is there, provided that the person will do the job. Well, you know, I'm a farmer. We don't have borders. You don't say because this man is a Christian or he's a pagan, he has produced yam, you will not eat it. We don't have borders.
All right, just quickly before I let you go, let's talk about former President Muhammadu Buhari. What sort of influence do you think he can have in on President Tinubu in the formation, and people like maybe Baba Bisi Akonde, who have been very close? Looks like these two are the power brokers that the president cannot say no to.
Well, do you think that he cannot say no to the president? Yeah. But has he not done certain things that the president would not do, or has not done? And you are talking of Papa Bisi Akande. I met him from very far. From very far. He may not. He called my name because somebody called my name. He doesn't know me. But from the way I looked at him, he's not the kind of person who would unnecessarily be overbearing. I think he respects the president's ability to really go for merit and competence. So whenever the president takes a decision, he would respect that decision. I don't think, you see, what you know, if you want to really wield power, you carefully analyze the body language of the person who has that authority and align with that person. If you always go at cross purposes with what that person wants to do, you will not succeed. So oftentimes, because these things are just happening, there is some synergy and there is some agreement, people tend to think that you have a lot of influence on the person. The former president was said to be, very, very loyal to his nephew, that you couldn't do anything.
Yeah,
but his nephew had told people that, look, there is so much I can do where Buhari is. The man is, he makes up his mind. So whatever happened, what you people say, is not necessarily true.
Well, maybe technocrats who are not politicians can have some relief that maybe due to their competence, Tinubu can consider them. That's what you're saying?
He has no choice. Because if you put people who don't know what to do, you will not get Nigeria out of the quagmire that we are in.
All right. Alhaji Kabir Faskari, we must thank you immensely for helping us to understand the inner workings of the APC. And we just hope that Nigeria will get better under President Bola Tinubu. That's what everyone is
thank you very much for having me.
Because, he's still enjoying the honeymoon period. And after 90 days, I can tell you that the game will change. And a lot of Nigerians are expecting results after 100 days in office. I must thank you immensely for joining us. We've been speaking with Alhaji Kabir Faskari, who is the president of the All Farmers Association of Nigeria, and he's also a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, specifically coming from Faskari in Katsina State. And it's been interesting, actually, chatting with him and hearing so much that's happening, and we're just hoping that the next federal cabinet will be one that meets the expectations of all Nigerians.